In this Adobe Illustrator demo, I want to give you a brief introduction for the proper use of smart guides. Now, like I've said in the past, usually when I start to draw under my view menu, I usually turn my smart guides off. I always tell people just start with no check marks on your view menu. But smart guides are there for a purpose, obviously. So I want to show you what they are and how to use them. Here in Illustrator, I'm going to go to File and New. And in the new document, I'm going to click Print. Size of my page will be a letter size sheet of paper. Units of measurement are going to be set to inches, so I know letter is 8.5 by 11. But the logo we want to make is horizontal, so I'm going to click the landscape orientation right here, and I'll click Create. Okay, I can take my zoom tool and option click just to zoom out once there. So you see we've got a nice sideways sheet of paper here. And as typical in Illustrator, I don't know what to draw, so I need to place in order to trace. So again, that is File and Place so I can trace. I'm going to come to the desktop. I'll go out and find my weekly files here, and basically you're looking for chapter 3 in Adobe Illustrator. Chapter 3 AI demos, and we have folder 3.4. I'm going to click once on the scan, and again you want to make sure you are looking at your options. So I'm going to open that up by clicking the button for options, and I want to make sure there are no check marks. Typically link is turned on. You don't need it. No check marks in your options under Adobe Illustrator. So now when I click place, all I have to do is just click, and I can throw out a scan on the page. If it didn't land exactly where I wanted it to, I can take my black arrow and just kind of nudge it up there into place right there. And you'll notice that I can accidentally bump it out of the way. Okay, so once you place a scan, go to the right side of the layer, right over here. Double click and make that a template. Now, since the color is already pretty light, I'm going to keep it dimmed to about 50%. Typically, I would tell you to dim it down to 30%, but we're already starting light. So we'll just dim it out like we laid a sheet of tracing paper on top. Like I've said before, once you create a template layer, that layer is locked. Do not unlock a template layer. It's locked for a reason. You don't want to draw on that layer. So you're going to create a brand new blank layer to draw on. You can name it just by double clicking the words layer 2, and I'll call that Nielsen logo. Hit return. And now that I'm on a brand new layer, I'm going to hit D for default colors. I'm obviously not drawing a white logo, so I'm going to click on the white fill and hit the question mark key. All I want to draw is black outlines at first. Okay, in order to draw this letter N perfectly, and all the other letters for that matter, you got to stop and evaluate what you're really looking at. Okay, not everything needs to be done with the pen tool. If I look closely, this pretty much represents a big vertical rectangle. And it looks like the opposite side is exactly the same rectangle. It's just a matter of having to connect them in the middle. Okay, if I look at the letter I, it's just one vertical rectangle. The letter E is a vertical rectangle and 3 horizontal rectangles. If you really break things down into the way you would draw them in terms of shapes. The L is a vertical and a horizontal. The S is 2 horizontals and a connection, kind of like the letter N tipped on its side. If I draw one letter N here, I can copy it over here. If I figure out the letter E here, I can copy it over here. So there's a lot of shortcuts we can take in drawing this logo. So in order to do this, I'm going to zoom in once and hold my space bar and kind of move this into position. And I need to create this first rectangular space. Okay, but in order to draw everything perfectly, when I need to be perfect, I go to View and I turn on my Smart Guides. Then the thing that helps Smart Guides is View, Snap to Point. Everything here is about lining things up, being perfect. Now, just because I enable them doesn't mean they're ready to go. I need to set up my Smart Guides in my preferences. So I'm going to go to Illustrator menu, Preferences, Smart Guides. Okay, in my screen, most of them are turned off because I'm working at home, but typically I'm going to turn all of these on. Let's say typically they all come up. Everything is ready to go, and that is not the best way to work. You do not need every single Smart Guide. In fact, most of them will just get in your way. Okay, it tries to help you too much. So what I'm going to do is under Construction Guides, turn that off. We don't need those. Okay, on the right, I don't need measurement labels. I don't need spacing guides. I don't need transforming tools either. I'm just going to keep these three. Alignment guides, because I want to be able to line everything up. Object highlighting, so when I hover over an area, it tells me if I'm on an anchor point or on the edge. And anchor path labels. So again, tell me if I'm on a path or if I'm on an anchor point. I just need those three. The color of my Smart Guides, typically they're set to a bright color, like bright green. Bright green on a white page is kind of hard to read. And when Smart Guides come up, you want to be able to read them. So I'm going to set the color of my Smart Guides to medium blue. And I will click OK. The only other thing I want to do before I draw is come up to View menu and make sure my bounding box is not turned on. It's right here. If it says Show Bounding Box, then I've already turned it off. Okay, if I click that and it says Hide the Bounding Box, do that. Hide the bounding box. You're not going to need it. Okay, so now that I've got everything set up, I'm going to take my rectangle right there in that upper left corner and I'm going to click and drag down to this lower right corner. And I'll let go of the mouse first. There we go. Now you can see these little Smart Guides starting to pop up. Like there's an alignment guide, there's an object label, I'm on an anchor or I'm on a path, and you can see there's another alignment guide. So these Smart Guides are going to help me to line things up. I'm going to go to my black arrow. I'll put it right on the center point. There's another Smart Guide. And I need to line this up straight across the page. So when I click and drag, I've got this blue alignment guide. And it's gonna, you can kind of move on and off and just keep going around until you find it again, right there. I'm gonna hold Option for a copy and let go of my mouse first. So now I didn't have to draw that twice. You draw it once and you duplicate it. Option key makes a copy. The goal though is I have to connect this vertical rectangle across here to this vertical rectangle. So what I'm going to do is switch to my pen tool. And the way you connect objects is by overlapping your objects. So what I'm going to do is start anywhere inside here. I'll start up here. I'm just going to click and let go. Then I'm going to come up right on that anchor point. Click and let go. I'll come all the way down here. There I'm intersecting with the rectangle halfway down. So, and I'm right on that edge. Click and let go. I'm going to overlap and click. Then I'll come down and make my way back to the start. On the anchor here, I'm going to click, come all the way back up. I should get an intersect. There we go. Click and back to the start. Click. Okay, so basically I've drawn 3 different objects. And just to prove that, just to see that if we can on the screen. I'm going to take my black arrow and select this object, click on the fill, and we'll make it yellow just so we can see it. The middle object will fill that red, and the right side object will fill it green. So we haven't really drawn the letter N. We've drawn 3 separate shapes. Now what I need to do is turn those all into one big shape. So if I select all 3 with my black arrow, I can come over here to my shape builder tool. Okay, you want to come down on the left, about halfway down, you have a shape builder. And what I'm going to do is click on that. And when I come out, it has a plus. It wants to build bigger things. It's like Legos. I have a yellow Lego, a red Lego, and a green Lego. I want to connect them all together to make one big object, in this case, the letter N. So with the plus, I'm just going to click and drag, and whatever this line hits, it's going to add this, to this, to this, to this, to this. And when I let go of my mouse, they all blend together into one. There we go, one big Lego logo. So I've melted or merged those shapes into one. Okay, I'm going to click outside with my black arrow, click on the green fill and hit the question mark key. And then for clarity's sake, I'm going to zoom in real close, like right here. And I'm going to start with my rectangle by drawing the letter I. Okay, that's that vertical rectangle that you would have again and again and again. So I'm going to start right here, click and drag down. And then with my black arrow, I'm going to start making copies of this first. So right here on the center point, I can drag it to the left. There's my alignment guide. Option for a copy, and I let go of the mouse first. Then I'm going to drag it again with that alignment guide. Option for a copy, let go of the mouse first. And then if I hold my space bar, I'll push this over. I need another one here and another one here. So let's reselect the letter I. Click and drag it across with my alignment guide. Option for a copy, and I let go of the mouse. Click and drag it again with that alignment guide. Option for a copy, and I let go of the mouse. Now I can start drawing all my horizontal rectangles. So I'm going to switch to the rectangle tool again. Right on the corner of the E, I'm going to click and drag a rectangle to there. Right here on this corner, I'll click and drag and overlap the objects like that. And then right down here in the lower left, I'm going to click and drag all the way across, and there's a vertical alignment guide. So now the top rectangle and the bottom are exactly the same length. I'll come over to the letter L, start in the lower left, click and drag. There's another alignment guide. So this rectangle is exactly the same height as the one over there. And I'm going to finish off with the letter S. So I'm going to start here, click and drag up to there. Right up here is an alignment guide. So now I'm lined up with the left edge and the top edge. Click and drag, and I should get a vertical over here. There we go. So now everything is lining up with everything else. I don't need to do the other E and the N, because when I figure those out on the left side of the word, I'm just going to copy them. Space bar for the hand tool. We'll pull this back to the beginning. And just like I did up here, I'm going to take my pen tool and overlap my shapes. That is the key here. See how I did it with the letter E? I overlapped my shapes. With the letter L, I overlapped my shapes. So I'm going to start inside the rectangle. Click, come to the corner and click, come halfway down and click, overlap, click, come down to the corner, click, come back across, click, and back to the start. Now I'm not going to finish that letter yet. I'm going to draw all my shapes. So I'm going to hold my space bar for the hand tool. I've done the letter I, I've done the letter E, I've done all the shapes for the letter L. I just need to finish the letter S. So again, I'm going to start inside the shape. I'm going to click, then I come down to the corner so it lines up with this top edge. Click, click, come down to the edge. I'm right on the path. Click, overlap my shape by clicking inside the rectangle. Then I'll come up here to this corner. Click, line it up with the edge with an alignment guide. Click, come back up to this path to connect there. Click, and back to the start, overlapping my objects. So now I can take my zoom tool, option click a couple of times just to zoom out so I can see the entire word. And you don't have to fill anything with color when you use the shape builder. But what I would suggest is you zoom out so you can see what you're doing. Okay, we'll fill things with color later. I would also suggest one letter at a time. Don't just try to select everything and use the shape builder. Okay, one letter at a time. So I'm going to start right above the letter N, click and drag with my black arrow through those three pieces. Take my shape builder on the left. And if you go up to the shape builder and you accidentally click this one on the right, you're going to get a big perspective grid on your page. We're not doing perspective. So if you get this big perspective grid, just go to View, down to Perspective Grid, and hide the grid. Just get it off the page. Just don't click on this perspective grid tool. Okay, the shape builder is on the left. Now, you don't have to be real precise either. You can just click and drag, and as long as you scribble over all the pieces, that's all that matters. You can hit other ones, not going to matter because they weren't selected anyway, so you don't have to worry about that. If I'm on my shape builder, I'm going to hold my command key for my arrow, click and drag through all the shapes of the letter E, let go of the command key, and now I have my shape builder again. So I'll just scribble through all the pieces of the letter E. Command key, click and drag over the letter L. Let go of command key, and I can just sweep through those shapes like that. Hold command key for the arrow, and I'll select all three pieces for the letter S. Let go of the command key, and I'll scribble through all the pieces, making sure I hit everything there. That's it. Okay, if I have the letter E, I've already figured it out here. So I'm just going to click on the bottom left corner, click and drag it across. There's my alignment guide right there. Option key for a copy, and I let go of the mouse first. Then I'll come back over here on this bottom left corner on the N, click and drag it over, and now I get my alignment guide right there. Option key for a copy, and there we go. I'll just zoom out, and that's our letter forms. I can click and drag, fill them with whatever I want. And again, as I've told you before, when you are done with an Illustrator file, you can take your bottom layer, your template, you don't need it anymore, you've traced it, so you could throw it in the trash. Okay, if you are just turning in a logo like this, there's no need to keep the black outlines on it either. Okay, solid green on a white sheet of paper is easy enough to see. So I'm going to select everything with the black arrow, click on the stroke so it pops up to the top here, and hit the question mark key. So I just have nice, solid, clean looking green letters. Save this file as last name, first name, Nielsen logo, and we'll move on and do another logo in just a minute.